Hey everybody, welcome to Patrick and BJ's Real Estate Podcast, where we're here to talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate, and especially real estate on the island here in the greater Victoria area. So thank you for joining us. We have an election coming up. So, Patrick and I were talking about what are some things that are coming up in this election that, are important for you as somebody that lives in the area, or maybe you want to move into the area. And so we thought this would be a great time to just talk about, we're not talking about candidates so much, but we're going to talk about some of the issues and just some of the thoughts and ideas. We were just talking before we started shooting. There's some interesting ideas that you have to kind of pause and kind of think about before you just have a carte blanche answer one way or the other, right?
Absolutely. There's many factors there. Affordable housing is pretty much on every candidate's platform,
right?
Since it's a pressing issue. And there's so many different ideas around that, and it's hard to tell who's got the right ideas to move forward and to make advances on it, to make improvements.
Yeah, I think part of it is, that it's a big issue, like you said, and there's probably not a carte blanche, one way or the other. It's all this or it's all that, but it's also, that we can sit down and have a conversation about the issue without it degenerating into name calling or, finger pointing and all of these things, but to actually that we can work together as a society and as the living here to find a solution that works for everybody, right?
And that's really important to us, that we don't focus on who's the messenger, but what are the ideas. Yeah. So if we get to share and discuss some of the ideas, you can look back, if you're in Victoria, you're voting for a councillor or a mayor, maybe it just gives you a little bit more to think about when it comes to their housing stances. So we're covering some of the ideas. I don't know if we have enough time to cover all of them. I don't think we're going to get there.
Right.
But we'll at least go through an overview and some of the ideas that are presented, and we can discuss a little bit about the pros and cons, and just be open-minded about all the ideas. Yeah. That's it, and go from there.
For sure. Okay, let's get with it.
Okay, so I went through all the candidates and some of their ideas for their platforms for housing. Now, before we get started, some of the housing platforms spilled into environmental concerns.
Sure.
So they kind of crossed over where they would start talking about housing issues as it relates to climate change. So some of that might cross over. So that's a little bit of a forewarning. Let's start off with an easy one. Reducing red tape. So many people have this has been an ongoing narrative, especially for municipalities where it takes a long time to get redevelopment and building approved.
Yeah.
So reducing red tape to approve secondary suites.
Yeah, makes 100% sense to me that if we want to help the housing kind of shortage, the rental shortage, let's make it easier for people to add a suite. Let's make it easier, whether it's a carriage home or a suite in the house. Let's do what we can to help them, because in the end, it's going to help the community. It's going to help the greater Victoria area. It's going to be a positive, right?
Well, I think there is positive. I think there's necessary positive attributes to that, because that suite's going to add income to whoever the primary occupant, the owner to the house is.
Right.
On the other side of this, it's going to add more cars, more people to the neighborhood, where maybe that's not the intention originally when people move there. It starts to become a little bit more crowded, right?
Sure.
A little bit harder to park for guests or yourself. So, I want to make sure we look at both sides of the coin every time, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think, when I say make it easier, that doesn't mean, throw your brains out. It still needs to go through the process of, there's got to be some due diligence here, right? So that,
some responsibility.
Right, the size of the lot, the things like the power that's coming to the house, and, the access and all of these things still have to be taken into consideration. But maybe there's a way that we can do this that we can cut the time in half in that process, or maybe there's a way to cut the time in even if you knock off 25% of the time that's taken right now, that's still a benefit to the situation. And I think, like you said, it's important that, these decisions aren't done in a knee-jerk reaction one way or the other, but that there's, all these things are taken into account.
So that was just asking about secondary suites, if it's a garden suite or if it's a basement suite.
Right.
Well, I would venture to say that this is an ongoing problem that Victoria needs to address on all levels of building permits and redevelopment permits, right? That everything has to be a little bit streamlined. If the answer is going to be a no, you can't have a garden suite or you can't have a basement suite, and these are the reasons why.
Right.
To have like some, just have a transparent parameters that everything would fit under.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
So this would be an interesting, and this would probably fall under affordable rental housing. So reducing property taxes for landlords to keep rent affordable. So rewarding landlords,
right,
if they get a tax holiday, if you're paying $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 for your taxes,
right,
then, and if you offered a lower rent by $400 or $500 a month,
right,
then you would receive that. It would balance out on your budget, but it would benefit the renter giving affordable housing.
Sure.
Now that's going to take away from the coffers of the city.
Right.
But it's an interesting proposal.
Yeah, and I think my first thought with that, and a question I would have, is how do we know that the money's getting used appropriately? How do we know that they're getting a credit for a break that they're giving on the rent?
It sounds like by adding that, you're going to add a lot more bureaucracy to the city.
Right.
And then how do you enforce that? But how do you audit that?
Yeah, how do you verify the information? Yeah, that would be my question. It sounds great, at first blush.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's that easy to put into practice. And is then the intent you're trying to encourage people to build suites? Because I would be looking at, okay, how can I put a suite or a bedroom or whatever the minimum requirement is for me to get a tax break?
Right, if it's $2,000, maybe it's not the whole amount. Maybe it's 25% of your taxes or half of your taxes. Yeah.
Sure. So, it sounds, like I said, it sounds great at first blush, but I think there's
a lot more information.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. And the potential for something like that to go awry, I think, is pretty. It's pretty significant when you have that many moving pieces.
Fair.
Yeah.
We could see people maybe gaming the system.
Sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next one.
Okay.
Restrict whole home short-term vacation rentals such as Airbnbs. Currently, there's 2,652 whole home Airbnbs listed on or in Greater Victoria area.
And the thought is by restricting those, we're going to have more long-term rentals available. Is that the idea?
Or freed up to change that. If the purpose was, I'm guessing, the purpose was to buy a home and use it like a hotel, and now if you can't use it as a hotel, the rental doesn't make sense anymore because you're not making the same amount of money that you would sell it. Either way, it would add supply to either market housing or rental housing. Yeah,
it would do that. What do I think about that? And I'm just going to, we're talking about what we think. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion is, I don't want, if that's me, I don't want the government to come and tell me, hey, you can't do this, something that's legal. I'm not talking about anything that's illegal, unethical, or immoral. You can't do this.
Yeah.
Because we think there's a better use for your property than you do. Then maybe you, the government, should be buying my property.
Handle it themselves. Okay. My take on that would be there's already a bylaw.
Okay.
If you're using your house like a hotel, you need a hotel zone. You need to pay hotel taxes. Okay. So there's a lack of bylaw enforcement from the city. That's it. Or the neighbors are turning a blind eye, but they might complain on a Facebook group.
Right.
Not, that's just the way it is. If there's that many, if there's 2,652, then obviously enforcement is not happening.
Right.
And if those are called out, they might be willing to pay the fines, whatever they might have.
Sure.
Or this, from a real estate point of view, if you've been using your place like a hotel, like a commercial residence,
Right.
even if it's a residentially zoned, I would talk to your accountant when selling your house to see if GST becomes applicable
Sure.
to your home.
Sure.
So it might come back to you and cost you in the end when you go sell your place,
Sure.
if you use it for commercials,
Right.
a commercial use. Not to say like condos that are already zoned for that, or have a business license and have gone through all the approvals that fit that. Other than that, as a home-based business, within the parameters of the city bylaws, you're allowed to run an Airbnb out of, like, I can't remember exactly if it's 25% of your home
Right.
or 30% of your home.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. But a whole home is just against the bylaws.
Sure.
So like that's great to mention that, but that's not the problem. It's enforcement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Well, you know what? Thank you guys for watching and hanging out with us today. We've already gone through our time today. I know it went fast. We'll try to cover some more of the issues that have been expressed and addressed about the election before we get to the election. But thank you all for joining us, and keep coming back. We're putting out regular content, and you can always subscribe and like our page. That helps us with just getting it out there as far as what we do and the things that we talk about and the information that we do give out. We're going to have some other stuff on other days where we're going to talk about, how can you sell your home faster and for more money, or what are some things you should do, what are some things you shouldn't do when buying or selling your home. So thanks for joining us, Patrick.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we're happy to help you with any of your real estate needs here in Victoria or anywhere on Vancouver Island. And thank you very much.
Peace.